Good evening. I'm Barb Barrows, Athletic Director here at Neuqua Valley High School, and I'd like to thank all of our parents, our athletes, our coaches, some alumni out there, our players, and some of our administration team. Thank you for coming out this evening for such a special event. I'd like to start off by letting and thanking Lisa Trout here that will be filming this evening. For those that would like to pass on to some of your relatives or families that could not attend, that will be nequatv.org, and you can be able to view this at a later date. I'd also like to thank Lance Fuhr, our assistant principal. Lance is very committed and assists our athletic program nonstop. He's a very great supporter for us, and he also has provided all of us a great keepsake. And if you didn't get a copy of one of them, I know we have these at the back of the table. So Lance, thank you for all your support. I think everything logo-wise, anything with graphics that makes Neuqua Valley look so well, it's because of Lance. So thank you very much. Now if I could have all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now at this time, I'd like to invite Dominic up to the podium.
I would like to invite Dr. McBride up here as well with Mrs. Barrows. On behalf of the Neuqua Valley Cross Country team, I present to you the IHSA third place state trophy.
All right.
On behalf of Dr. McBride and myself, we take great honor in accepting this trophy from Dominic and all of you sitting here this evening. It's great pride to be able to add another wonderful trophy to our collection and our traditions that we have in our trophy case down in the athletic wing. Today, we celebrated and said this is our 34th athletic trophy, but school-wide we do have 35 IHSA state trophy recognized in our IHSA speech. So as a school, in 19 short years, we've been able to collect 35 state IHSA trophies. We can all be very, very proud of that. Receiving an IHSA state trophy is not an easy task. It takes a lot of training, a lot of training, and it also takes a little bit of luck, as I'd say, too. So I think a good combination of that, and we were very fortunate to be able to receive the third place trophy this year. Congratulations to all of our athletes, not only the ones that are standing before us, but those that are in our crowd today, being that you have not only impressed our community, impressed the administration here with your dedication and your commitment to cross country, and it's unbelievable the amount of hours of training that you have given for your teammates, for yourself, and for as a team to collectively be able to achieve such success. I'm honored with the fact that not only that you bring this hardware home, but I take great pride in what this program has been able to achieve since we have opened up. This program has accomplished 5 state trophies over our tenure, the most in our school for all of our programs. So that in itself is very successful. Takes a great deal of guts and competition, and we've seen that throughout the season with these young men. But the last couple of meets just really demonstrated their determination and their pure guts of competition in competing in the weather that they had to compete in. It was just amazing how they just kept proceeding on to support their teammates in such conditions. I know most of you are out there, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. We probably didn't see each other's faces very much, but the boots are out, the umbrellas are out, and about 3 layers. But our athletes were in shorts and tank tops, and they competed as well as they do. So congratulations, gentlemen, for your guts of competition. I also want to thank all of our parents here because you have given our coaching staff and all of these athletes so much support throughout the years, been and supplied food, and I know Paul's going to address the many things that you do throughout the season, but without you, things don't happen and the success isn't achieved with all of us working together, the parents, the coaches, athletes, and administration. So I appreciate all your support, your presence at the events, and making sure that your sons are fed properly and that they eat properly so they can achieve their goals. So thank you, parents. I want to take the time, just a couple minutes here, to thank our coaching staff as well. Not only do our athletes have commitment and demonstrate loyalty throughout the season, our coaching staff does too. They take a great deal of time away from their families so they can share their passion, their love for running that has, as we say, transfer to power. We talked about that, about transferring. That goes back to our student athletes because of their being great role models and sharing their passion, their love for running, and having the knowledge of training. There's a lot that goes into that. Our coaches don't sit back and say, oh, we'll just go out and run X amount of miles. They take great study to what's out there to achieve and how many miles is good, what the eating, etc. They put a great deal of information that goes into their training schedule. So I want to congratulate our coaches for their knowledge as well as their commitment. But most importantly, they teach these young men to be young men. There's great honor to being good individuals, to be respectful, to have great academics, and to support each other like a family. And these coaches do absolutely that every day when they're out there coaching these young men. So I want to say thank you for having the high expectation to our coaches. Thank you for your commitment to the Wildcats. At this time, I'd like to have Dr. McBride come up. He also endured some great weather events in the many layers.
Thanks. Thanks, and also, you can't, there's a long list that Mrs. Barrows gave of thank yous. I tweeted out a few weeks ago, the greatest athletic department, around, and could you give her a big round of applause? Very humble, but these things don't happen on their own. I'd like to add, for all of the athletes here, I always say this, if you've been around me, probably a broken record, but I just really believe in the personalization of thank you. And if somebody has done something for you in this world that is meaningful, the importance of saying directly to them to their face. In the Hebrew, in the Jewish tradition, it's called a mitzvah, saying thank you face to face. I try to do that as all the time. And so I hope all of the athletes here will make a point to individually thank your coaches with that handshake and tell them why you're thankful. Not just thanks, but tell them why you're thankful. But also, as Mrs. Barrow said, thank your parents. Because what I know is that your parents have made an investment in you, a belief in you, time, talent, treasure, their support of you, providing you a home, encouraging you, cheering you on, being there for you, and that deserves a thank you as well. So can we thank all those other adults who ring us and really lift us up? It's amazing. It's amazing. Whenever we're at ceremonies like this, I think it's very important to say, why are we here? I laugh, I brought my medal because the McBrideettes, my two daughters, they think this is very funny that I get a medal because every time I bring one of these home, they say the same exact thing to me. They say, Dad, what did you do? You did nothing. You didn't do anything. I usually say, it's true, it's a long story about principles in the IHSA. You don't want to hear it. But what I do explain to them is I get the medal, and this trophy comes to our school as a symbol. And it's important to consider what it's a symbol of. And it's important that we take the time institutionally as a place that will be around long, long after all of us have passed through it, to install this symbol and memorialize this season, to accept it into our beautiful school, to accept it into our hearts and say, this season, unique as it is, the 2015 season existed, and it had this outcome. And I would really stress to you that it had this outcome. What it means is, in my mind, not a victory at Detweiler, although that felt pretty good. It felt personally good for me because I ran my cross-country years at Oak Park and River Forest in the same conference as York. So it has a little special nasty for Dr. McBride. Feels good. It also feels good because last year we ended up in that 4th position, and that didn't feel so good. So that felt good. That was a good thing. And it's great to run. It's great to run and have a job well done and accept this trophy. But the reason why I use the word outcome is this only happens if other more significant things go into the outcome. If the process is true and the commitment is real, then these things are possible. And this really more honors that the commitment is true and the process is real. And I think the victories that were won this season were won in gritty fields, at sectionals where people had to dig deep. I think it was won there. That's the closest I can remember to my own collegiate sport, which was rowing. Now you might say, what does rowing have to do with running? I guess we can make analogies with endurance, but I will tell you, both are wet, both are nasty, and in the end, smelly. So I just want to imagine what was going on. But they were won with that grit, right? In the grit of knowing, I really feel for Connor Horn in his season, but people stepping up, into his place. They were won there. That's a place where commitment and process paid off. Where else were they won? I mentioned to these guys something from my own sport just kind of came up. We had a guest speaker here last week who, strangely enough, talked about rowing. People in the Midwest never talk about rowing. So as a rower, a collegiate rower, my ears perk up. And he talked about something we talk about in our sport called mind and boat. And mind and boat is not just about being focused in a rowing shell with 8 other people. It is the ultimate realization that you are intimately tied to every stroke, to every motion, every preparation that the person in front of you and in front of you and in front of you and in back of you and back of you, you're intimately tied, mind and boat. And another outcome that we realized is the importance of everyone, right? This program really rests on that. That whether you're in the top 7, the top 12, the top 100, you actually all matter. And didn't we find that out? It's easy to say, hey, I'm the 6th man, what does it matter? Well, it actually mattered this time, right? Well, it mattered because it always matters, doesn't it? Whether you're number 1 or number 100, number 120, it always matters. If you have commitment and if you have process, it matters. And when you have that true, authentic commitment and process, these things come home. But this was not won at Detweiler. I will tell you, for me, what I will remember from this season, where this was won, was in a moment where we weren't, as a team, not strangers to this. We've had loss before on this team. And imagine me, the principal of this school, stepping out of Bethany Lutheran Church to see almost the entire cross-country team walk in to support a teammate who lost a mom. That, my friends, that is where this was won. So, congratulations. We are very proud of you. You are the best representation of our community that we can think of. Give these guys a big round of applause. And as always, go Wildcats. Paul Vanderstein, come on up.
Good evening. Michael Block, I just now noticed that you have a broken hand. I can only imagine it's because you fell out of a hammock. The man puts up a hammock everywhere he goes and relaxes. Yeah, I don't want to know. Thanks for coming here tonight. This is the 5th time that we've done this, and each time it feels like the first time. And I hope we can keep doing it. If we had gotten 4th, which we were close to doing, the number of 4ths would have equaled the number of trophies that we had, because we've gotten 4th 3 times. And I stood there, behind the starting line at Detweiler, and looked at those for the first time ever. If those of you don't know, they had these live results all right? So at first they had us winning by 3 points, and then it was tied, and then for like 20 seconds they had York beating us by 1 point. Luckily I didn't see that piece. And then finally it rested and stayed at 171. And it wasn't until Mr. Miller came up and did this, "You got third," that I rested and knew that officially that's what had happened. I'll tell you what, it's strange. Over the years, things change. There was a time 6, 7, 8 years ago, we would have beaten York, and I would have taken great, great pleasure out of that. Not so much anymore. And I started to think as to why that is. I think one is because I love their coaches, Charlie Kern, Ron Hedman, and Mimlitz. Coach Newton obviously been around for a long time, and a lot of things that we do, we emulate what he has done. Not completely, but there's some fundamentals there that we've taken on. And I remember, 19 years ago when I was first starting with this program, the first thing I did was go watch York practice. And Mr. Newton welcomed me into that practice. He took me back to his office. He handed me one of those booklets. You wonder where those booklets come from? That came from Elmhurst, York. And I just really appreciate him taking me under his wing at that time. So I guess, because I love those coaches so much, and I love the Hinsdale Central coach, I love the Lions and the Sandburg coaches, it's really a strange thing. I mean, cross country, yeah, we're competing, but yet I don't know of any other sport where you feel empathy for one another as much as you do in this sport. Yeah, we're out there competing, but in the long run, when it comes right down to it, it's just a race. And, those guys are my friends. And when I shook Charlie Kern's hand afterwards, I just could feel the pain. And I empathize with that, because last year, that's how we felt, right? 1 point out of third. So it is what it is. And like Dr. McBride said, this is just a symbol. I started to think, what if we wouldn't be here right now, right? Celebrating. And by the way, I just saw in one of the state associations they give out 4 trophies. That would have been pretty cool because we'd have 7 of these things or 8 of these things. I'm going to introduce the guys here in a second. But first of all, as we all know, Saturday night is probably my favorite night of the year. Is gathering at Alexander's. And whether we get a trophy or not, to watch those guys walk down the stairs in those goofy outfits, the tradition that was started in 2007 is just so much fun, And to have our family all together at Alexander's is just such a special, special moment. For 250 people to gather in that restaurant and drive the waiters crazy because we're all talking when he's trying to talk. But, I mean, what a great celebration, what a great tradition we have. It's funny, as I was sitting there eating dinner, first of all, I forget one of our head coaches or one of our assistant coaches' wife's names. And then I didn't even mention my own wife's name. So here I am going to do it right now. Miss Charmaine Vandersteen, thank you for everything. I wanted to read a piece, and what's really funny about, I guess, this piece I'm going to read is that it wasn't written by me. It was written by Mike Rossi. And I get coaches and people that come up to me all the time and go, "Man, Vandersteen, that was an amazing write-up you had on that race." And I always say, "What do I teach?" And they kind of look at me puzzled. Science? I have 2 English teachers on my staff. I don't write most of those. In fact, I wrote 2 paragraphs. It probably took me like 45 minutes on Sunday, and I'm like, enough of this. Rossi, hey, I got 2 paragraphs. I got to start it. And of course, he goes, "I know what you're trying to do." He's like, "You're trying to say a lot here, but I know what you're going after." And he was exactly right. So I want to read you. If you haven't had a chance to read this recap, wow. Rossi has written, and Janota too. They both are amazing writers. And Rossi has written some incredible pieces, but this one took the cake. I mean, if you guys have read this, you guys are nodding your heads, holy smokes. So here's kind of the last piece. We gathered afterwards, as we have for many years, at Alexander Steakhouse in Peoria. Family, friends, teammates, alumni, well-wishers joined us for applauding our runners' heroic efforts in a noble season. Surrounded by two stories of kindness, love, and unflagging support, we returned to the question of family. We were all so different, brash and diffident, introspective and daring, neophytes and old warriors, dreamers and pragmatists, engineers and poets. Some had new children, some had just buried a wife or a parent. What brought us together? The race, of course, the glory and the good company naturally, but trophies come through luck as much as the effort, as we were reminded this year by fibula, fever, and fracture. The deep bond, the more essential nail was this: faith. We had all held fast to the simple belief that running makes us better. Better people, better sons, better fathers, and mothers and husbands and wives. Simple sayings, moderation and consistency. Nothing great ever happens without enthusiasm. Carry great wisdom, and it becomes the role of each member of the tribe to pass this wisdom along in word and deed, in breath and body. Family is an oath that stands firm as its members come and go, a thing to share amongst very different people converging for an instant. That's Mike Rossi for you, man. That's some incredible words. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce these guys. And like, Mrs. Barrows and Dr. McBride, you parents, there is no way we could do what we do without your support and your help. I mean, there is no way another team in the state has the breakfast that we have. I just don't see how it's possible. And, just your efforts in your transportation of your sons to these early morning practices. I know you can't wait to when they get their driver's license, so you don't have to do that anymore. You know what? And I always thank my lucky stars for having an administration here that is so supportive. I've thanked Barb Barrows 100 times I'm standing here today because of her. Without her, it's a long story. I wouldn't be here. And Dr. McBride, bless your heart, it was his birthday on October 31st, and he's out there in a deluge, 42 degrees and, borderline hypothermic with his daughter. They had planned to go do a bunch of things afterwards, and he and his daughter looked at one another and said, we're going home after this. So just thanks to you two, Dr. Fuhrer, we both came over from Waubonsee, we're best friends, and, without him and his support, I don't know if you guys realize this, but, Twilight would have never happened without Dr. Fuhrer. So thank you to all three. Please give them one last hand. So I guess I'm just going to introduce these guys. If they will just, let's just have you stand up, when I do introduce you. And stay standing so that then when we're all done, we're all standing together. And we'll go from there. I am not going to, go into a 3-4 minute spiel on each guy because we'll be here till, 8:30. Plus, they're going to hear this again at our award ceremony on December 9th. But I'll say a couple brief things about each of these guys because obviously they deserve it. And some of you might, I don't know if you know this or not, but the IHSA gives us a 12-man roster. I get to put in 12 guys the Tuesday after conference, and those are the only guys I can select from to put in the state series. Well, we're so deep this year that it was been a crime to keep 3 other guys that would normally have made maybe even our top 7, in the past years. And that's how deep we were. We got one of the guys that I couldn't put in a top 12, Coach Kennedy's son, Ryan, ran a 15-17 at Detweiler. And he doesn't even make our top 12. In most years, that's like our 5th man. So, those three, it's very important that they're up here. I brought them up on we got them up on stage for the the trophy ceremony, and I'm just glad they joined the other 12 to represent Neuqua Valley. So I'm going to start in the front row down here. This is Caleb of Ferguson. Give it up for Caleb. Never in our history have we had somebody, this is how deep we are. Caleb did not participate in top 7 at conference, regional, or sectional. We put him in at state meeting as our number 3 guy. That just illustrates it right there. He still didn't run as fast as his brother, but that was a victory for you there, Josh. I don't forget about alumni. He came close, though. He came close. All right, next to him, freshman Zach Kinney. He's small, but he's mighty. 15:04 for 3 miles. That's faster than Connor Horn when he was a freshman. One of the fastest freshmen in the country is Zach Kinney. For those of you who don't know, his slight build kind of worked against him a little bit at the sectional, got elbowed in the head, and so he's foggy as it is, and then suffers from hypothermia. He says to me on Tuesday, this is 4 days, I'm sore, coach. I'm like, why are you sore? He goes, from shivering so much on Saturday. Wow. Next to him, Jackson Jett. We affectionately know him as the Jet. Jackson, the junior, this young man, talk about work ethic. And you young men sitting in this audience, I know you know this. Last winter is why he's standing here right now and was our 6th man at state. Runner-up at the conference meet. You're going to see some great things because he's a workhorse, and he's just going to keep getting better. Next to him, talk about a story, Scott Anderson. Affectionately known as Scandy. Scott broke his fibula, turning his ankle on a route at the first meet of the year, finished the race, got 4th, sorry. His ankle swelled up. I just, tendonitis, she'll be fine. And of course, it was a fracture. So in a boot for 3 weeks, came out of there. We had to, tweak some things in terms of his training, because obviously you just don't come right out of a boot and start running 5 miles a day. But he worked his way back in and was our number 1 man at state running 14:55. So pretty incredible. Next to him, a senior, Patrick Wolak. Affectionately known as Patty. Patty did not join us till his junior year, but I've said this many times, it feels like he's been here forever. When he came on board, it was like he's always been with us. I just don't see him any differently than that. Patty's a gritty competitor. He gives it his heart and his soul, and I don't think anybody digs deeper than Patrick Wolak when it comes to racing and training and caring about his teammates. I don't know, this team would not be the same without him. So, Patrick, I'm glad you're here. I'll tell you what, once you guys sit down to these other guys, we can see these other guys. They're like, thank you. All right, let's go with Danny Winnick, a sophomore. Danny, one of the fastest sophomores in our history, officially ran 15:08 in a meet down in Peoria, then ran 15:07 in a time trial. I just never thought there would be a day where somebody would run 15:07 and not make our top 7. And like I say, not make our top 7, we could easily put him in there, right? It was a juggling act as to who goes in there. And I have a feeling if we did put him in there, he would have, run right at 15 or broken it, who knows. But Danny, we have some great years ahead of us, right? And it's going to be fun to see what he does. He says, yes, there is going to be, Coach, because I'm going to prove it to you. Next to him, Matt Milestan. Affectionately known as Mongoose. Coach Rossi gave me that name. I have no idea where that came from. But we said it all season long. When Milestan gets into that state meet, we know he's going to do damage. And he did not prove us wrong. He ran 15 flat .6, was our number 2 guy in the state meet. Only a junior. He's coming back. Matt Milestan. Pay attention to these years, how many of these guys are coming back. Next one, junior Jake McEnany. Jake has got the courage of a lion. I mean, this man will not back down to anyone. And subsequently went out a little too hard the first mile at the state meet. But I love his confidence. I love his grit. And he just needs to learn to let that race come to him, and I know he will on Sunday down in Terre Haute at the regional meet for Nike. Jake McEnany, talk about a workhorse. This man does it all. He does all the little things correctly. You know, he goes to bed at 9:15 every night and eats right, et cetera, et cetera. Ran 9:27 last spring in track and field, ran 14:58 at Detweiler this year. Watch out for this young man next year, Jake McEnany. All right, we got to get some seniors. Austin Kinney. Austin, the older brother of Zach, obviously. Austin, when I hear the word integrity, I think of Austin immediately. He does everything right, and he does things to their completion when nobody's watching him. I don't know if we probably all forgot this, but Austin was hurt for almost 3 weeks this fall. I think we almost all forgot that. We're so consumed maybe by Connor and Scandy that we forgot about Austin was out for almost 3 weeks and worked his way back. Had a great race, and then he kind of hit a lull, and the timing just wasn't good. But man, he ran 15:04 at Detweiler. And then in the time trial on Friday night, he runs 15:11. Unbelievable. Austin's, I kind of look at him, he's like one of those guys I look at going on to military school. You don't think he's going to, but he's the kind of guy that would fit there. I mean, he's just the highest integrity. And we're really going to miss him. Austin Kinney. And here he is, the germaphobe himself, Dominic Dyna. I was sick for like 2.5 weeks. I shake everybody's hand, right? Dominic come up to me, no. He wouldn't shake my hand because I had a cold, right? I hate to say this, but this is what happened. I just got to tell the truth. So I said to him, you're just probably just going to end up sick right before the state meet. And he did. Because I was mad he wouldn't shake my hand. I jinxed him. So Dominic wakes up with a fever, right? And he's like shivering like Zach the weekend before. And we had no choice. I mean, he was going to get on that line and he was going to do it. Incredibly. Okay, he's our number 7 guy. This is the conference champion, by the way. All right, he wins the DVC crown. Gets on that line with a fever and is our 7th man. But I think it's the 2nd fastest 7th man in the history of Illinois with a fever. Unbelievable. Because of him, our split was 18 seconds between our 1st and 7th man. That is the smallest spread 1 through 7 in the history of Illinois. So, Dominic Dyna is the reason. Another credit to him is a couple people said this to me. If anybody would get sick, that's who I would choose. Not because they want to get at him, but because he's so tough, and they knew that. So if anyone's going to get sick and he could get through it, it would be him or Austin, and he pulled it off. All right, Ryan Kennedy. only a sophomore. Ryan improved dramatically as the season went on. Now, those of you know Mike Kennedy, one of our assistant coaches here, also our head track and field coach. He, what are we laughing at? Mike is he's a real optimist. He always kind of maybe exaggerates a little bit or kind of accentuates things a little much. And I said to Coach Kennedy, I said, he's going to run 15:15 this year. And he kind of looks at me like, seriously? I think he thought he might run 15:30. But Ryan, you proved me right. Well, you were 2 seconds shy. 15:17 for a sophomore is unbelievable. And really looking forward to his contributions these next couple of years. So. Next to him, we have Wiley Anderson. Wiley's a senior. Wiley's one of the hardest working, most dedicated runners I've ever had in Neuqua Valley Cross Country. He comes to practice every day with a smile on his face and a grit to work. One of my favorite moments was on the track this year, and Wiley ran a 3-mile time trial to see if he could kind of get on that state travel bus. And boy, did he answer, ran 15:27. And Wiley, we're really looking forward to what you can do this spring. He's pretty quick, so watch for him like on the 2-mile relay this spring. So Wiley Anderson. Next to him, Josh Mulway, a junior. Josh, really it was a little over a year ago this time, had a really pretty bad foot injury and got it corrected and has really made some strides. And I don't think anybody could have predicted that he'd be standing up here last year at this time. He has really come a long way. He's ran 15:17. At Detweiler, ran 15, or equivalent of a 15:17, ran 15:26 at the time trial. He's in our top 12. I think you're going to see some damage from him on the track this spring in the mile. He's got some real leg speed. It could be in the 2-mile relay too. So, Josh Mulway. And it's kind of fitting this young man is last, senior Connor Horn. You're looking at in terms of the Detweiler times, the 4th fastest runner in Neuqua Valley history. And I have a feeling, had he been given the opportunity to run in the state meet this year, he would have been the 2nd fastest. I don't think he would run as fast as Chris Derrick, but very few do, right? Obviously, Connor was sidelined by a stress fracture, and the most unique spot I've ever seen, a talus bone of his foot. Pretty hard to break that bone, but he did it. And you know why he did it? Is because he's so tough, and he just kept working through it. I don't think most of you know he had a stress fracture on his other foot in the navicular, which is a little bit more common, still rare. But I've never even heard of one in the talus bone. In fact, he went to his orthoped, and I don't think he knew what it was either, right? Until he got the MRI. We all thought it was a tendon. It wasn't. Connor's out, but he'll be back. He's one of those guys with a high level of integrity. So while we're, all doing our thing, Connor is in the pool and on the bike working his tail end off. When nobody's watching, he's by himself. That's what he's doing. And come mid-December, he'll get back out there running, and I think you'll see some great things out of him in track. All-state runner, remember, 7th in the state last year as a junior. And obviously, this past spring, you were 4th in the 2-mile, 3,200. So watch for Connor Horn this spring. So, Connor. And surely last but not least, 3 of my assistants. By the way, Aiden Livingston could not make it tonight, another senior. Aiden is sick. He's the one that got Dominic sick, from what Dominic says. He blames him. They roomed together down the state there, and yeah. No, I didn't. You did? Yeah. So don't you get sick. Yeah. So.
It was like 76 degrees.
Yeah. So Aiden couldn't make it tonight, unfortunately. We send him our good wishes. I'm sure he'll heal up fast like he always does. But these three assistants, one of the assistants couldn't make it tonight. That's Chris Hartner, who is the owner of Naperville Running Company, joined us as an assistant, volunteer assistant, came 2 times a week, came to all the meets, and he's out in New York right now at some big ASICS thing, so he couldn't make it tonight. But I really appreciate Chris's friendship and help. But these 3 guys, talk about a family, talk about brothers. You know, I can't tell you the number of times that I've laughed so hard my stomach has hurt. I can't tell you the number of times I've cried because of one reason or another with these guys. Like you said, we're brothers, and we've been through a lot. But I tell you what, these 3 guys, I guess all 4 of us, how I look at it is we complement one another so much. We're so very different. And I think that's why we make a good coaching staff, because we're not all the same mold. These guys challenge me all the time. And I can give you numerous examples of, hey, I'm thinking about this. I run everything past them. I don't just make decisions. You know, I send them emails. I drive them crazy, to keep saying, stop it. Stop sending me emails. Because I want to hear their input. I want to hear what they have to say. And because I really value their input. Mike Kennedy and I drive the rest of the science department nuts, because 8th hour, here we go. We start talking shop. And sometimes we have to even go out into the hallway. I go, Mike, I can tell by expressions on everybody else's face that, probably don't want to keep talking track and field and cross country to drive them up the wall. But these 3, I don't know what I could do without them. They've been around, it seems like forever. And I'm not going to get into the number of years they've been with us, et cetera, but I'm just going to introduce all 3 of them at once. Mike Kennedy, Mike Rossi, Jamie Janota. Give it up for them. Well, that's all I have. I don't know if Ms. Barrows wants to say one final word, but I want to thank you again for coming out tonight, and we'll see most of you December 9th for the award ceremony. Should be a good one, right? Thank you.